of security, but I want us to segue into the world of film. And you ask yourself where the Kenyan film industry is. Let's have a glimpse of the mileage that we've had.
How are you today?
Juliana.
Why should we give you this job?
Sister, utamwangalia. We are completely overwhelmed with cases of mothers like yourself.
Ikifika jioni kama hujapata pesa zangu, funganya virago vyako vyote na uende ushako.
All right, look at the quality, look at the story. These are our very own story. Are we telling them? Well, and now I'm joined by Naomi Mburu, who's the producer at Naomi Mburu Films, and also Ken Kigunda, who's from DocuBox, East African Film Fan. Naomi, I mean, you've been acting for the longest time, you've produced. Are we making mileages in this film industry? Are we making a living, especially as artists, for starters?
Absolutely, slow but sure. I've been in the industry over a decade now. I can say that now. It's been more than 10 years. It's not where it was when I began. It's definitely moved forward with an upward trajectory, slowly but surely. So yes, I can say that we are making some mileage. You can make a living off of, I mean, I am an actor and a producer full time. I can't say that I have another industry that I'm now working to get some money. However, the paycheck is a bit inconsistent, but it's good. Well, it's there, right? So yeah, I've seen a lot of growth in the industry.
That's very encouraging, you know. And I want to bring in Ken.
Yes.
Ken, you know, bottom line, even Naomi speaking, she's reference to the issue of paycheck.
Yeah.
It all boils down to money. Yeah. And in many industries, what we invest, there's a likelihood of reaping from it. So let's talk about investment into the film industry, Kenyan film industry. How much are we seeing being infused?
So apparently in Kenya, you find only a few organizations are funding the cultural creative industry, and DocuBox is one of them. We've been in existence for, actually we're celebrating our 10th year anniversary this year. And what we've been doing, it's because it was founded by filmmakers who came to support other filmmakers to make good films. But still it's not enough. We are asking for other people who are interested in the Kenyan film, who believe in the authentic films coming from Africa, then to also play a role into it. We know it's government main mandate to fund the industry, the film, the creative and cultural industry. But obviously over years we've seen there's been a trajectory of them funding, but not still enough. There's a whole conversation going now within the AU that each, I think 12 heads of state have been able to commit to at least 1% of their budgetary allocations to the creative and cultural sector. But again, looking at the Kenyan budget that we have of 3 trillion now, and 1% to that particular sector, it's not still enough. Yet it's an industry that creates a lot of employment, directly injects money into the exchequer. We find 5% of the GDP of Kenya is contributed by the film industry. Again, it solves so many lifestyle and health issues that we have. Social impact is immense. If you look at the such stories like The Letter, which is a documentary about how elderly people are endangered in the Kilifi areas. They are actually, because of succession of land, they're killed and branded witches, and you find most of them then lose their life. But these are spark conversation about how then we need to protect such an endangered group of people.
So essentially, Ken, utilizing the artistry to address social issues, but now even when you come to that, there is the element of the Kenyan story that has always been argued when we juxtapose Kenya to, you know, film industries like the Nollywood, Nigeria, you know, they say they have their own way of telling their own story,
Yes.
the authentic Nigerian story. In Kenya, is it something that we should find our Kenyan story, or how do we make Kenyan content stand out?
I dare say that we've already found our voice as Kenyan filmmakers. We already do tell our stories in our own way, right? We have our language, we have our culture, we have massive, great stories in Kenya. For example, the trailer that has just played, I'm one of the producers there, associate producer. It's a story on postpartum depression, right? And we tell it in the Kenyan Swahili language. We tell it in the local way. We tell it in the easiest way possible for people to understand. I think if we increase the consuming power of Kenyan films, we'll come to understand that we have found a voice for ourselves. We have stories like Napunyi, which are told in Swahili, Sheng. We have stories like Kina. We have stories like, Morning After. Stories that have already been told in our own voice.
Yes.
So I think the challenge is not that we've not found our voice as Kenyan filmmakers. I think the challenge is that we have not increased our consuming power. But again, I say, especially after the pandemic, the consumption has gone up. In the last 3 years, we've seen a huge rise of people consuming local Kenyan content and them enjoying. I mean, to the point where we're competing globally with other nations, say like Nigeria. We had our Kenyan shows at the AMVCAs, like Njoro wa Uber.
Yeah,
it's a purely Kenyan story, and how, you know, taxi drivers are,
Exactly.
and what that process is all about, and they won.
Yes.
So we are at a very good place as a Kenyan film industry.
Okay.
So it's not that we've not found our voice or our way of telling our story.
Uptake is very important.
Yes.
And I mean, Ken,
Yeah.
how do we boost that uptake in terms of devolving that power? As you said, there's been a consumption, but make it a household. Right now, everyone is talking about Fast and Furious 10. Everyone is excited about, you know, big screen kind of thing. But in terms of boosting that uptake, how do we do it?
You find something we are trying to do, and now is taking this film to mashinani. For example, with the Kitale Film Week, where now we went and screened these particular very amazing films from Kenyans to the people in Kitale County. Within that sphere, people are able now to see these Kenyan films. You find consumption is more in the uptown and urban cities, but you don't find it now in the rural areas, where still there's a need of that consumption, only that they don't find these platforms like Netflix, Showmax, where they can watch them, or internet connection. But once we start driving this conversation down there in these particular films to the grassroots, you find that the consumption within the country will become massive, just like other countries are doing. Through South Africa, the KwaZulu-Natal, you find them taking their films back to the communities where they are screened. You look at Nigeria, they take their films back to the communities where they are. In Kenya, we are also trying to do that through our impact screenings, where the moment a documentary is produced within one of the DocuBoxers filmmakers produce it, we do impact screening in schools, in the communities, because they address issues that they affect them directly, and they're the first consumers of that particular content.
All right. And as we finish up, because we have less than 2 minutes, I know this has been a quick conversation. I know making films is a lot of work. You know, we see that trailer, and we're like, that is just a minute.
It's taken us 2 years.
2 years.
2 years to do that.
Act
film.
of love.
It's a 28-minute short film, but it's taken us 2 years, right?
That's
Documentaries
an
take
amount.
7 years of production.
Yeah.
7
Years
years.
of production before the release.
So somebody who was a baby, now they can talk.
They can talk.
Imagine
And
that.
millions of money afterwards.
And millions of money afterwards. So in terms of sort of an elevator pitch, Naomi, you're a producer, you're an actor, you have different facets of it. Briefly, as we finish up, the value of putting money in a Kenyan film. Why should somebody, an investor seated out there, do that?
One statement: it has bigger and better returns than real estate. Ask me for the statistics later.
Hey, Now we are talking about housing fund, you know. And
3%
better returns. As well,
Better returns.
Yeah.
Better returns.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as we finish, Ken,
Yeah.
the future now, the future of this sector, especially in the short term, because now we've transitioned from elections. Everyone is trying to settle in. When you talk about economically speaking, there's a lot happening globally. The cinema culture is also changing. Yeah. What does the future hold for the Kenyan film sector?
The future is great and bright. For us, it's just to encourage filmmakers who are doing such work like Act of Love that was produced by amazing filmmakers to just continue pushing and producing quality movies, to listen to audience and what they really want and then produce back that and use their creativity without it being capped. But also we are having events like Shorts, which are promoting now, giving a platform for films to be screened, supporting short films to be screened, like Act of Love was supported by DocuBox partially. And this film will now be showcasing for the first time this Sunday on 4th of June, where we will invite Kenyan audience to come and watch this particular beautiful film about speaking authentic stories about Nairobi and Kenya.
Wow.
So such platforms are really growing big and better. And again, we are, we are not doing it alone. We bring each and every other artist aspect of it to that particular event, because we have the Mushroom who will be performing there again, celebrating our 60 years of anniversary as a country, celebrating 10 years of DocuBox existence, so 50 years of the Mushroom and 5 years of short fiction films screening in that particular space. So it's an amazing space that we are heading to, and we are asking for more people to come and support local content.
Okay, lovely. Wow. Naomi,
Yes.
over a decade of experience you had with that over 10 years. And also Ken, really appreciate your input.
Thank you.
Short, but as you know, Sauti Sol, they're doing their tour in the US. They say short and sweet.
Short and
Short and sweet.
Yeah. Short.
I know.
Anyway, I appreciate your time. Naomi Mburu, producer, Naomi Mburu Films, and Ken Kigunda, who is from DocuBox East Africa Film Fund. They say that it's time for us to support our own. Start consuming Kenyan films. Well, as we have put a full stop on